this one. All right, so again, if you have any problem, haven't seen the screen, so let me know. I need to turn off. Right, so today lecture, this one lecture is lecture 8, is going to be in collaboration and authoring. Okay. So this one just give you a sense when I think the next 2 lectures for today, collaborations, and the other ones, spatial augmented reality and tangible user interface. That just gives you a sense of how this can be combined. Okay. How these can be help you form a group project as well. So that's why I think it's quite timely to deliver it today. So you take this in your thinking. So in terms of collaborations here, okay, so collaborations, okay, so this one is really moving slide. Collaboration here basically is a group of process or 2 or more people, okay, that are working together to complete a shared task. Okay, there's many used in many contexts. In the context of our field, in this human-computer interaction, it's often to refer to a computer support collaborative work. Of course, our area will have computer with it's not just a pen and paper. Okay, so that would be a collaboration too. So in this case, you have that sense that in our field, you need to have a sort of computer supported. Okay. So in CSCW here, we'll support the working environments. So there's 2 different axes. Okay, so on the vertical, on the top here, okay, you will see a bit of same synchronous versus asynchronous. Okay, and on the horizontal, that's the horizontal and vertical line, and you have same place or different locations, or you can call locations. So in that case, you can simplify that horizontal is time, okay, and then vertical space. Okay, so that becomes a time space group matrix. Okay, this allow generating 4 matrix, 2x2 matrix. Okay, which is start from the pink one, the top left. So that one is the same time, and then also co-locate in the same location. So that becomes face-to-face, in-person interaction. Okay, discussion room. So as I said before, pen and paper discussion in the same room that we use all computer labs and things like that we before COVID become more ideal or situation learning space that we do. Now in the second one, in the bottom right here, okay, on the top right, so in the green one, okay, continuous task. So that one is a different time, okay. So, but it's still same location. So that means is that you could be in a large display space that you're working together. So you might be in set information that different people are working on different tasks, but they are still in the same meeting room or discussion room. Or you can look at another dimension when the time is on the bottom left. Okay, remote interactions. Okay, so this one, a lot of our field fit into this space. Okay, so that one is basically different at the same time, synchronous. Okay, but it has its different locations. So in this case, video conferencing and things like that we're doing now with Zoom and with Collaborate here. Okay. And the bottom right, communication and coordination. So this one asynchronous and also remote. So this one you can look at the emails, information, posts, social media, or social media can be real time as well. But oftentimes you look at them when you look at them, not necessarily when it happens. Okay. So this is information that actually become useful. Okay. So in this case here, the target is on the left-hand side. Okay, really synchronous for us. There's a lot of computer-supported environments are sitting on the left-hand side. Okay. The area in which we are looking at here, the term that we use oftentimes used in our field, are seamless interaction. Okay, in the context of computer-supported working collaborative environments, collaborative. Okay. So SEAM, Professor Ishii from MIT describes some of these. For SEAM is the English term, which is disconnect discontinuity is spot, but in this case, interaction become spatial, okay, and the temporal functional discontinuity, which I'll talk about that in the next couple of slides. Okay, so the type of theme is a functional and cognitive theme. Okay, so the functional here is between different functional workspace, okay, different work area, different tools, here between different practices. Okay, so the way in which we do the same work, but they're using a different type of thinking. So this one is become more and more clear when we get some examples there. So this one is functional theme. So this is a different workplace. Okay, so in this case here, there's two functional. Okay, so this is it's very different than face-to-face. Okay, so there's clear theme here. So this is in this situation here, two people working together to some sort of early version of video conferencing. So you see the person view, you see the person workspace, okay, which is a drawing here. And now the issue here, so this is a different functional workspace. So the person with the bear has this work environment in which they're working on with you, okay, but you clearly have discontinuity in the functional theme. So therefore, you're not really, you work in the same space, but you have to work through and struggling to get around or compensate, accommodate these issues. What functional theme in this case is a loss of eye gaze. Eye gaze information that this is a good example that I keep using is that basically you not really see people eye to eye. Because they are looking at the monitor, they might be looking at you, talking to you, but they could be, you might not get a sense of that. So human from this end need to accommodate those changes. Okay, so oftentimes human can do that. Okay, but that idea is that we are creating that. Okay, so that's similar to our current situation that we have here. Okay, so this one is cognitive. Okay, so this is between different work practice. Okay, so the same job here. So people are drawing tasks. So one person from one end doing what the artist has been doing, practice his whole career, and then now we have a new work practice. Everything's in digital mode. Okay, drawings, things. So this is nothing particularly different in terms of outcome. Okay, so outcome could be depend on how is the purpose would aim to be the same: create a drawing, create communication, visual arts, illustration. Okay. However, this when you counter some of these, is creating what we call cognitive theme. Okay, so this is something to do with learning curve, and then oftentimes in the user expectation, it's basically user. Sorry, animation keep tricking, and user frustration. Okay, so this one is always a bit of issues when you move it. So oftentimes that's what it is. That you would notice in the much older generation, grandparents, I have difficult time using because they are before the PC version mouse and keyboard, so they will have hard time a little bit of adjusting to that. Okay. However, interestingly, for the past 10 years, you will see in the behavior that generation, elderly grandparents adopt more to the iPad type. Okay, so yeah, that probably give you some thinking is how do they use that better than use them. So that has to do something with the cognitive theme. Okay, so the learning curve is much smaller. Okay, and the touch screen, not using the mouse, touch screens are more tied to the user natural interactions. Okay, so you touch button, you touch, so that generated quite a bit of useful information for us as a design in this space need to recognize that. Okay, so again, there was a couple of these to make sure that you kind of get your heads around it's the basic concept in this space. Okay, but instead of you just focus on what application look like, but you try to imagine what the difficulty this will create for the user. To understand this concept is important because it allows you to kind of ask the right question. For example, if your application, you assign for do something like this, you introduce some application using either VR or AR, but doing the same work that people have done before without those technology. So one of the things you want to look at them is whether how they find it difficult to use. That should be one of your questions that you ask them. Yes. So, but if you're actually looking at these, if the applications are new, you're looking at the same space, you're looking at how to interact among themselves. So you'll be more focused on how do you feel you have the attention. In this case, you're focused on loss of gaze. So you could be specifically asking for that. Okay, that's okay. Do you feel like the person is listening to you? So, yeah, so those are kind of questions that you really target. But you need to recognize what is your applications are doing to the user. So this is a general idea of what communications cues look like. Okay, so this is varieties. You have audio, you have visual, you have environment. So that's a basic human being in terms of communication. So you have audio, you have speech, you have visual, you have gaze, you look around, and then you have environments or sometimes objects that you're actually a part of the conversation. Okay, so in this case, it's a wooden model so in the middle, and people are interacting. You will notice something that the two gentlemen on the right really form some mini sub-conversation inside the communication there. So there's a little overlapping of how communication is happening. Okay. We are not changing that. We're not changing that per se in terms of the way people interact. From our view, most of the time, we try to understand how people are doing it and how our technology might impact the way they use communicating. Okay, that's the focus there. So for our case here, it's a very two simple case. We're looking at the face-to-face part. Like people around the table, easy to see each other. So you have this. Let me take the green. So the task space is basically around the table where the object of conversation is. And you have the green circle, which is communication space, how people are interacting, how the conversation flow, how the body language are being read. So they're a bit outside. So in this case, that's what most remote collaboration doesn't quite work. Okay, so because you won't see that much of the green circle. So that's what these computer supported collaboration. This is kind of coming in. It's still a face-to-face here. Okay, so people still working on the same, but right now it's more on computer. Okay, sit by side. So in physical arrangements are almost identical. Okay, however, the task space now sits at where central point. Okay, so not much different than the face-to-face collaboration. However, the communication space is now changing. How people read their body language, how the language is being communicated. They go bypass it. They no longer overlap. Okay, this is whereas a lot of people try to focus on this, how is that impact your usability or productivity, effectiveness of your work. So this is if you're creating this kind of application for your assignment or for your work in the future, you want to look at these. This will be a kind of, it's not a solution per se. They give you a clue, okay? A clue of what might be area in which you might be looking at. Okay, look to ask, look to test them on, design a question in that space. For now, currently there was a bit of work. I don't think the video will go through. Oh no, it should go through, but maybe the sound is not go through. Okay. Yeah. So in this case here, collaborate TDR. Okay. You can go and watch the full with the audio one with the link below. Okay. So in this case here, you log in different VR. So this is how people industries are seeing VR might be using. Okay. And you can see here, so people can interact. So this is a little bit cutting edge at the moment. So if not in research, it's definitely in that industry because that's how they try to make a mass case use of VR. Currently, VR is really much predominantly inside individual experience. there's still some challenge in this space. Okay, challenge is it's not just a network. I think networks now with NBN, with the 5G coming, and these will be quite common. Okay, the network wouldn't be capacity bandwidth wouldn't be a problem then. The problem with these is going to be lie in the fact that whether the device will be make it way to every office, and whether the actually people will learn anything more than what they have. For example, they will be looking at the scene. People could argue they could use 2D web task management, business task management. They can do the same job. Why would they need to be in 3D virtual space? I mean, those are kind of things that's quite important to recognize. Early in semester, I raised some of these issues from the reading number one, confidence. Okay, so reading, what's the metric? How do we know what we're doing is actually coming in the right direction? How do we know that that video of people playing inside the VR together is going to give you what you haven't already provide you with a better outcome? Okay, so that would be one thing that you should ask. This one is so this one collaborative AR. Okay, so a company doing a lot. This company also doing in the VR space as well. But this one will be interesting one to look at. For those of you who came to a practical, you would have learned this and wear the AR headset before the HoloLens here. But this is just try the concept to try to blend them together, okay, with VR. And you have the virtual avatar, which is run by live remote AI users. So they do perform the same thing. So essentially, you create this transcend space that people are working together. Yeah. Okay, and this is a promo video to showcase what the platform might be able to do. Okay. We don't have this device for the practical. It's called Magic Leap. Okay, so it used to be a competitor. Even it came out a couple of years ago, competitor for the HoloLens, but they have a bit of issue in the last year or so. So now the state of the art is still HoloLens, which those who came to practical would have seen the new version. I brought it over, and what Ron is showing a few weeks ago, HoloLens version 2. But one point of this one is that you can send here people are working together. I think now it's just a matter of whether the task that you have, the blow thing up, put thing in free space, that really add something to what they really need for the work, or they're simply being marketing type. Really, the values are not there. So this is a very interesting time for our AR collaborative space. See whether there be any use. This one is more practical, aiming for more industry. Okay, more practical, mobile phone. Okay. So this one is actually done by Vuforia. Yeah. So the new version. So they call Chalk. So this one they're communicating with a remote supervisor. They're looking at their live feed and they annotate the location in the factory, and then people communicate through the screen together. However, those annotations stay in space in 3D. So I mean, as you move your headset or your not headset, the mobile around, you be able to communicate. Okay, so one step to HoloLens also have this kind of application that Microsoft put out, remote assist. Okay, so, but this is kind of interesting how people collaborate to these mediums in both AR and VR. All right, so think I'm just going to do the authoring. So it's probably another 10 minutes before I take a break and stop the recording there. All right, the authoring here. Okay, so now you have a tool that you are talking about collaboration, but authoring is a very quite subtle and very important. Oftentimes we don't actually thinking about them too much, even though we are using them. So it basically is a creation of software that help users create their own content. Okay, so that authoring tools. Nowadays, good example of social media. Okay, so Facebook, Instagram, and this is a platform that allows consumer like us people to use them and provide our content into it. So what that means is that is the purpose of this is in the context of this unit is to deliver specific user consumer experience. Okay, how people creating their AR, VR content without actually have to build a whole lot of things. Okay, so that's why this is kind of diagram that become useful. Okay, so oftentimes you can approach it from one end or the other. From the left-hand side, the programmer are two different programming, systematic approach, building block sets and things like that. Okay. But then from the right-hand side, that's from the designer point. So that part is for people who think, okay, you'll have a good understanding of what the tool can do. Okay? And then basically you try to generate the content. Content here doesn't really strictly on 3D models. Okay? Content here could be something of how people engage with them, how people make use of content, and how they can use your tool to create the content. Okay, so they become a kind of two sides of the same coin. Okay, so the tool only useful if there's some content associated with them. Okay, so that means that whatever we do here in the project, you need to keep in mind to that, how people can use your tool to do other things. Okay, so people tend to thinking that authoring is just creating an experience without the need of program. Okay, it doesn't look funny as this one. Okay, because just to create a tool for people who not have programming to use it, there's many attempts so far. You will see visual programming, and then Unity is one of those. Okay, this is one of the authoring tools, so very popular one because it's versatile, in able to tap into a different platform, deploy in all AR, VR devices that are available on the market. So it becomes kind of essential to that you have experience now with AR, with both AR and VR, using the Unity as single. Okay. So that is considered authoring tool. You can put content here, you can add your content here, you can create your content here. Okay. Before Unity 3D, there's a multiple completing platform, which is, of course, they are all now gone, so not working, and so disappear because not many people are using it. So therefore, authoring tool only makes sense if you actually really allow users to provide content into them. For us, it's either interaction design, the actual 3D model itself, and how people engage with them. Okay. So this is one of the applications that Adobe is running. Okay, so this one it's just try to create you a very easy content to use. So you can create your 3D model, load it up into the app, you can pop and you can have the basic interaction. So this is Adobe Aerial. Okay, so this one is already available. So I think it's only on iOS platform. So you have iPhone or iPad. This is similar to AR4. iOS use what they call AR kit, okay, which is SLAM-based AR filing space. You can see define the surface, define the surface, similar to AR core that you've been exposed to early in your AR technical tutorial. So this case here, just imagine you have all these assets available for them for the user. User just come and grab and drag and drop. And a lot of these is actually you can compare to social media, Facebook, messaging, the Facebook use. So now you can put AR content in there. You can changing your face, things like that. Quite a bit of things that you can do now. So people are kind of trying to make a funny. I think the most popular one is the video. TikTok is also has AR feature. Okay, so some of those you can have a place. What we call altering tools allow you to altering your own experience by using that tool that they build. So you can see here, this one is actually built in some basic animation, what you want them to do, how big are they going to have any animation spinning? You should build within the tools. Okay. Unity is not yet at this level, but if you're a little bit more experienced with them, that's relatively straight to create that. So in this case here, you can see the tree will act differently and they'll have behavior. Okay. This is a VR altering tool by Amazon. Okay, that's also a website, Simale. So you can go and take a look. Okay, so this one is also allowed deploy into the AR device, or the VR device. Right now, this is where we are sitting in, just like what we were before Unity 3D software take over as the main developing. This is a try to feel be a complete solution. Design, you can design classroom, theater, everything. You can see that layout are similar based on typical design that Unity had been adopting. So, but this one has a bit of quite a bit of control. Animations are more fluid in the Unity. Okay. So you can see you can design that space and you deploy the device. People can walk in, they can experience. Again, there's no audio on this. You can go to their website and then look at their YouTube video. So a company with a capability, they can design their own VR experience for their target group, their employees or their clients. So I think it's a good sign that big companies are working on and putting a lot of resources into this space, because ultimately for VR and AR turn height to go on, they need to have a platform which common people, user can use it beyond just the people who really have interest in them. But in this case, you should go to everybody. So in this case, it's generating some virtual tour. So hopefully you get an idea. Okay. So now the level of altering is different components here. So this slide just captures what we have in the bottom. Okay. So you have a data, basic data we're dealing with, email, information, worksheets. So that's a desktop. Okay. So yeah, you move up a next step. Okay. So that you get a spatial, okay, specialized. So in the spatial, in 3D spatial data, okay, that becomes the big space that we know of. Everything projected in 3D space, point cloud, information, things like that, structure 3D, and you embed in them. The AR here is pushing up that altering component into contextualize. Not only it's spatial inside space, but it has to contextualize with the space that it's sitting on. As I said at the practical session with the HoloLens, is that the demo we play with was interesting because it's new, yeah, but it doesn't contextualize based on the space because it's just floating in tutorial app when you see Galaxy World, which is one main demo hands-on for that practical. But the AI itself is need to have this context. The best use is be able to contextualize with the spatial data it has. For example, for military. You go into a space, you want information, but you only information, let's say the building, number of personnel in the next building, the behind this building, how do you display that? So not only it fits inside spatial domains like a 3D world, but it also has to be contextualized based on that, like what the building called, what the partial of the building will look like, or if you have, for example, missing artifact, or not missing, ancient artifact that actually missing part of it as it's been damaged in the past. So AR would make sense to have the spatial data, which is the 3D reconstruction of that module will look like. But contextualize means you put them together with the physical one, with the remaining physical one to create a complete picture. And that would be how you contextualize spatial data, okay? Or information that actually like navigation example, 3D navigation. So just like Google Maps, but it's still Google Maps AR. Google Maps had launched the AR mode in the last couple of months, but it's only available to certain phones. You actually not only see the map on your here, you can point out the camera on the back of the phone will turn on, and the 3D annotation of AR indicating the map will show up. Okay, so that will be a really step up for what contextualize. So I mean, the arrow will say, okay, turn right here, and then actually annotation is really the location, so on the ground or either on, depending on how you design it. Okay. So hopefully you understand these 3 steps. Okay, oftentimes this is where students are not getting components, and then hopefully it make it ways to part of your design at time 4. Okay, so hopefully that gives you a sense of what might be happening there. Okay, so all right, so I'll stop here for take maybe a 5-minute break, then I'll come back for another lecture. Okay, any questions before I go? Before I take